Morning, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about a writer from Zimbabwe. This is actually a series I've been trying to read for the last couple of months. I've read Uchu Tendai, the hairdresser of Harare, the judge, the mathematician, and by Tendai Uchu always, and then Violet Bulawayo. We need new names. The last one I've read, so far I don't know exactly how I would pull all that reading together to make it to make something of it, either to have a talk or to have a conversation or to write a couple of notes on that reading. It came as a shock that I realized that I haven't just read any writer from Zimbabwe. South Africa is a different beast altogether because South Africa is pretty well known. But Zimbabwe, just the next door neighbor, I haven't had a chance to put my hands on a book. Well, I didn't even think of it, actually, to tell you the truth. So the book I wanted to introduce today is called the Chairman of Fools by Shimmer Chinodya. It was written in 2005, and that book won him the Commonwealth Prize. And of course, no, sorry. The Commonwealth Prize was not given to him with the book I'm presenting today. The Commonwealth Prize befell on him when he published Harvest of Thorns. So sorry about that. What I want to present you today is the Chairman of Fools, of course, which came a bit later, 2005. Yes, well, we meet the main character of that novel, Chairman of Fools, Shimmer Chinodya. The name is pretty difficult to remember, I guess. When we meet Farai, that's the main character. Farai is back from the United States of America, where he has graduated from Iowa State University with a major in creative writing, right? So he spent some time in the US, learning, and then of course doing odd jobs, if we might say, teaching here and there. And then he's back to Zimbabwe, apparently well off, because then he could afford a large house with a large swimming pool, a large car. He's a pretty affluent person, a character. He can afford a number of things. His buying power is pretty tremendous in the context of of Zimbabwe. So he's back home. His wife is happy, but the very first moments he settles down in the house, he just starts having a life which creates problems at home. Is every day. By the days is always out, is always kind of meeting, having love affairs all over the place. Mainly is, very rapidly we understand that is pretty addicted to alcohol and also addicted to sex, and which creates a tremendous amount of problems at home. His wife tried to redirect him, to bring him back on tracks, and he doesn't understand quite why his wife would be so shocked, so noisy about our life. his life, since he's been the main provider of food and well-being at home. He thinks that he deserves, I mean, there is a misunderstanding here. His wife doesn't understand why he's so volatile a husband. I mean, the reputation is having a pretty bad reputation in Harare. So much so that when it comes a time, I mean, at a point in time, the lady decides that she can't have it anymore, and she decides to desert the family home with the two kids, right? And she becomes incommunicado. Farai was already kind of some sort of unstable character. The desertion of that wife lands him a very fatal blow, and he goes even deeper into that addiction is been kind of showing throughout the pages. And so much so, I mean, his life become very, very hectic, very, very erratic, and he ends as expected. He lands in what we might call a psychiatric ward in a hospital, being treated for that addiction, because I mean it's become just like kind of a runaway lorry. This is that addiction has become a really runaway type of addiction. He can't just save his own skin, so he is at the ward, and where he stays a week, and that week looks like a longer stay, but it's just a week, right? At the end of that week, I mean, his situation is stabilized in a way, through the drugs. Probably because of the drugs, the symptoms are alleviated, and he is discharged. He's discharged, and his wife thinks that this is the opportunity to try to get him back, to bring him back again, to shun him in kind of the right direction. So brings him back home, and she's pretty happy. She's really a helping hand, trying to say, okay, as a duty, she feels it a duty to try to save her husband from drowning in that alcohol and that addiction to shagging. Then, of course, they go back home. Well, and Farai, the main character, apparently is a new person. He's become a better person, and is trying to do his best and keeping away from alcohol, keeping away from the agitated life he's had before. That was a strong advice anyway from his doctor, that he has to keep away from alcohol. And that's where the novel almost ends. The narrative goes full circle, because at the beginning, Farai comes back from the United States, and at the end of that story, he is going back to the United States, but this time as a residence writer. So I mean, his life is back on track. So the suspense is there. Is he going to fall back in I mean, victims of it's all the demons, that alcohol and shagging, or is he going kind of to keep to his new sort of life? That's where we leave him there. We do not know what comes after, because we can't imagine. I mean, what we wish for and what the author wanted to write, they're just two different beasts that we cannot put together. But that's the story. But even in the much global context, then we go back to what Achille Mbembe says in his book Sortir de la Grande Nuit. These are the kind of type of cosmopolitan sort of writers, Afropolitan writers, I should say, who bring in their writing the experience they've gathered through the different time zones they've gone through. Yes, the type of what we call, like a cliche, third generation writers. And yes, we know almost nothing about Zimbabwe. No political, I mean, there is no visible militancy in that book. So it sounds quite as if the book did not have a grounding in Zimbabwean society. But this is obviously the stance of those new writers like Chimamanda Ngozi, Sefi Atta, I'm thinking, yes, Elon Abela. There is no political stance. There is no, we learn nothing about Zimbabwe. We learn nothing about land reform. We learn nothing about the confiscation of land by the black majority, the land that belonged to white farmers. I mean, that land reform which has brought Zimbabwe to its knees, nothing of the sort. It's just kind of the individual life of Farai trying to fend through the daily difficulties of living in Zimbabwe or living in the United States. It's really kind of a very personal, secretive, individual route to I mean, not to bliss naturally, but to a betterment of one's own life. I mean, this is the case of really somebody who's kind of shattered his own life, and at the end is trying to pick himself up, to pull all the pieces together and try to start a brand new life. So this is really kind of typical writing of the third generation of African writers. That is what the book is all about. It's a good read. It's very well written. It's not bumpy. It's fluid reading. It is something that I would advise you to if you ever grab that book, if you ever have your hand on that piece of writing, you should give it a go. I think it's a good read. So this is indeed Shimmer, Chinodya from Zimbabwe, and the book is called Chairman of Fools. In case you were wondering where that title derives from, actually the fools are those people he has met when he was admitted to the psychiatric ward of the General Hospital in Harare, and those were the fools. But they used to organize there kind of some sort of elections to have somebody to represent them when dealing with the administration of the hospital. So they would organize that vote, and then he was elected the chairman of those fools. Well, not that fool. I will come to think of it, but this is something that we have to deal with when we go into the detail of that book. But I just wanted for today just to give you an outline, a very broad outline of what the text is all about. I do thank you. That was Shimmer, Chinodya, Chairman of Fools. Try it. It's a good read. Thank you.